Gandhi's famous non-violent Salt March that freed India is still reenacted around the world almost 90 years later. Here in Durban, the Gandhi Development Trust hosts the event annually, and this year it commemorated the 40th anniversary of our own Soweto Uprising. Over the years, the event has drawn support and participation from youth in and around Durban. Just like the youth of 1976, they too believe that their voices need to be heard and their predicament highlighted through peaceful protests in keeping with ahimsa or non-violence. June 16, 1976 will forever be etched in the minds and hearts of all South Africans as they remember the courageous youth of the time who sacrificed their lives for the freedom of our country. Thousands of students protested against the Bantu Education Act of 1953, which aimed at suppressing black students. The aftermath of the events of June 16th had dire consequences for the apartheid government. Images of the police firing on peacefully demonstrating students led to an international revolt against the South African government. While the uprising began in Soweto, it spread across the country and gave tremendous impetus to the struggle.
I think when you think of June 16th, it's one of the first times that the youth actually took a stance against something that they felt was wrong.
That defiance was taken up by children, by young people, by youth. And for the youth to come out and say, you know, we have had enough, we have to change the situation, is really an important milestone in the history of our country.
When you have been through something that unites you as a people, even if it's something negative like apartheid, that when that's gone, that then there's not a movement anymore to be unified around. And then you have to work harder at being unified. We're so disconnected as a community that now we're having to work very hard to come back together to try to create what we once had when we were so oppressed.
So many important things and so many prevalent things happening right now that we as the youth need to start supporting, and because we are the future of this country, it's important for us to start acting now, not to sit by the sidelines and watch all the problems that we have and go, I hope the government does something and I hope this goes well, but for us to show that we are aware of what's going on and that we actually want to do something about it.
Today, when the youth come here and identify with a culture of nonviolence, with the culture of togetherness, because we are a human family.
The youth are finally starting to empower themselves and see the change that they want. You only need to pose a real sort of question, which is, what sort of future do you want? Because growing up, what they're going to be affecting is the future that they go into, and the future of the children after them and the generations after. So if they start to picture a world in which there's peace and love and all those sorts of lovely values, if that's the sort of thing that they want to propagate amongst themselves, that's something they need to start upholding themselves.
This is quite important that the youth do voice their opinions and that we respect it and we all work towards achieving the same goal in a good manner.
Taking that culture forward would mean a lot, not only to our country, but to the world as well.
Gandhi was an inspiring leader who had great confidence in youth and encouraged them to work for social transformation. In America, Martin Luther King Jr. was directly influenced by Gandhiji's revolutionary power of nonviolence.
A few years ago, Ela came to visit us in Atlanta, and you know Atlanta's the birthplace and home of Martin Luther King Jr. And we took her on a tour of some of the sites that were meaningful in the civil rights struggle in the United States. And everywhere we went, there was first a picture of Gandhi and then a picture of Martin Luther King at every place we went. And I think it was at that moment, even though I understood that the nonviolent resistance was Gandhi's philosophy, I think it was that day that I realized how connected Gandhi was to the movement in the United States, and how, even in his death, how instrumental he was in the civil rights movement and all of the progress that we've made in our country as people.
He was all about peace, and I think that's so important, because people think that you have to be violent to be able to get attention or to be able to make a difference, but you don't. He showed how you can be peaceful, but as long as there's strength in numbers, so you can be peaceful as long as there is a large group of you coming together to show your support for a certain cause, then you can get attention and you can achieve the results that you want to. And I think it's so important for us to remember today, especially on the anniversary, because of what's been going on with the youth and with all the striking and all the violence. People think that you need to be violent to get attention, and it's actually a good thing that it's this anniversary today to show us that you don't need to be violent.
Well, his legacy was firstly the fact that he transformed. He was a different person when he came to South Africa. And that transformation, if it could take place in his life, can take place in all our lives. Many of us are conditioned by apartheid, and we have some of the remnants of apartheid within us. We can change that. And Gandhiji's life shows us that change is possible. Change for everybody is possible, and that is what nonviolence action is about.
With the daily degradation of morals and values and an increase in social ills that we see around us, it has become the need of the hour for faith communities to become active beacons of hope and light.
At any point in our history in the United States, when we have been successful, it has been because the faith-based community has walked in hand with everyone else, and that has been lost. And so it's something that I think has to be reintroduced at the school level, because it's not there anymore at the community level. The people who have an audience with children all the time is schools. And so we've got to re-engage our faith community in our schools if we want our youth to be engaged.
Spiritual grounding is very important, as in terms nowadays with the media and all of that, we have different influences, but if we keep grounded in our spiritual background, we have something to fall back on in terms of values and respect.
Your spirituality is your compass, it's your guidance, it's your morals to what's right and what's wrong. So without your spirituality, you're just going to veer off, or you won't really understand what this is about or the focus of it. It's what centers you, it's what keeps you in line.